Welcome back to our modern art painting, a Robert Delaunay style artwork. In the last session, we talked about modern art, and we talked about Robert Delaunay, and we talked about the progression of modern art into making paintings that were more abstract and then more non-objective, and how Robert Delaunay came to his ideas of Orphism. Today, we're going to start the drawing for our art project, and our painting will look something like this when we're done. Now, he talked a lot about circles, like lines and circles, and how those played into the look of his paintings. Now, for us, we're going to start with some paper. On the back, I would like you to write your name, of course. You're going to start with an 11 inches by 17 inch piece of paper. It's 110 pounds or 200 grams per square inch paper. So nice thick watercolor paper. Then make sure you write your name on the back and write your grade and teacher section on the back so we can keep track of whose painting is whose. Now, as you start, you're going to need a ruler, an eraser, a compass, and of course a pencil. Now, I would like you to make at least 3 to 5 circles. I'm going to make 4 in my final composition, and you want to line them out and place them in your picture so they look balanced, they look nice, they look neat. And before you start, practice with your compass. I like to start by making a dot with my compass and then taking that compass and rotating it around the dot. I like to keep that dot there just in case my compass slips. I can find the center again easily. On the back of your paper or on some other scrap piece of paper, I'd like you to practice making a few different circles just until you get comfortable with using your compass. Once you feel comfortable with it, go back to your main paper that's going to be your final artwork and start making some compass circles. I would suggest starting with one that is quite large and drawing that circle nicely. Then take your compass and make it just a bit smaller so that you can have a second circle inside of that first larger circle. Okay, now as you do this, decide if you want to measure it, decide if you want to just eyeball it and be a little more free with it, that's fine. I take mine and I just kind of eyeball the size of those rings and try to make them approximately the same. Okay, once I get done with this circle, I start in on a second circle. Now my second circle, I'm actually going to have kind of going off the right side of my paper. So I put my dot here on the outside of my paper. I tape my paper down so that just in case it shifts during the demonstration, I can get it back in the right place. Okay, if you want to borrow a piece of tape during class, great. Then I set my compass. I make one large circle. As you can see, it's going off the page. I adjust my compass and make it smaller each time so that my second circle is going off the page. This is going to give us a little balance. It's going to give a little interest to the edge of our page rather than just having them all cramped inside of your page. Now, I'm going to make my third circle, follow the same procedure, but this one I'm going to make sure that's a little bit bigger here, and I start so that it's overlapping that one particular circle to the left, the first circle. And I decided my compass was a bit big there, so we're going to make it a little smaller, remake that circle, and make sure that it is overlapping. Okay, you'll see that it does go off the edge of the page. Now as I adjust this circle in a little bit further, the second ring is also going to be overlapping underneath that first one. And the next one here is again another circle. And you'll see that those circles are not the same size, but that's okay. They don't have to be the same size. This last circle here, I'm going to continue by making it a little bit smaller to begin with and then making it bigger, kind of going the opposite direction as I had before. Now, once you get your circles done, whether it's 3 or 5 or 4 in between, then you're going to take some lines and divide up your picture. You can use your ruler to make vertical lines, horizontal lines, diagonal lines, parallel lines, whatever you want, as long as you are doing it thoughtfully. The idea here is that you are going to do a thoughtful job dividing up your composition. Now, you could use the golden ratio and try to lead the eye into a specific part. Based on how you have your circles balanced, you might want to divide those circles up to separate the picture with other geometric shapes like larger triangles. Like here I have this large triangle that I've drawn in. Or you might want to take those circles themselves and divide them into smaller pieces. In many of Delaney's paintings, he has the circles divided up into quadrants and then paints different parts of those circles different colors. Okay, again, think of how your colors are going to be interacting, as well as how your geometric shapes and lines will be interacting, whether they're overlapping each other, whether they're parallel, and what parts you're going to bring out and what parts you're going to let fall back. If we look at some other of Robert Delaney's pictures here, you'll see that he brings some pieces like these circles here forward, and you can see this one here, how it's underlapped under these two larger circles, and those circles are playing back and forth with each other. So as you're drawing, think about which circles you're going to bring to the foreground, which ones you're going to push back to the background, which ones you might have overlapping or interwoven into the different other geometric shapes. In the next lesson, we're going to talk about that just a little bit more, but I also want you to be thinking about that here. Right now, I'm taking my eraser and I'm kind of gently erasing to show you where I'm going to push pieces back and bring other pieces forward. But in the next session, we're going to have to erase everything so that we don't see the pencil lines in our final picture. Okay? And especially erase those center dots as you go through. Okay? Thank you for joining me for the drawing of your modern art composition for our Robert Delaney project.